Some serious allegations this morning facing the State Department.
That's right. According to internal State Department memos, the agency might have called off or intervened in investigation into possibly illegal and inappropriate behavior within its ranks, allegedly to protect jobs and avoid scandals. This concerns the time that Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. We want to get right to NBC's Chief White House correspondent Chuck Todd with the latest. Chuck, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. You know, there's an old saying in Washington that the cover-up is worse than the crime. But in this case, both parts of it are disturbing. Allegations of prostitution and pedophilia, and allegations that those crimes were somehow covered up or not looked into. So the State Department this morning is having to respond to those claims and those investigations of misconduct by State Department officials, including by an ambassador and security agents attached to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And the allegations are that these investigations were whitewashed, quashed altogether, and that those orders came from high up.
NBC News has obtained documents related to ongoing investigations into some disturbing allegations involving State Department personnel and at least one ambassador. A State Department memo says the ambassador, quote, routinely ditched his protective security detail in order to solicit sexual favors from both prostitutes and minor children. The memo also says a top State Department official directed department investigators to, quote, cease the investigation into the ambassador's conduct. It's just one of what another document describes as, quote, several examples of undue influence from top state officials. On Monday, a State Department spokesperson not confirm specific investigations.
I'm not going to talk about specific cases, but I can say broadly that the notion that we would not vigorously pursue criminal misconduct in any case is preposterous.
A former investigator for the department's inspector general has complained to Congress and the media that the investigations have not been thorough because of the pressure from those high-level officials.
We take every allegation of misconduct seriously, and we look into it.
It was less than 6 months ago that another major internal investigation painted Hillary Clinton's State Department in a negative light. That scathing report on the failed diplomatic security procedures in the aftermath of the Benghazi attack.
What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can.
As we noted, the whistleblower in this case, a member of the Inspector General investigative team at the State Department, she's gone to Congress demanding an investigation, and it's our understanding Congressman Ed Royce, the leading Republican in House Foreign Relations, says he does plan on having an investigation, and no doubt hearings are probably going to come soon as well, Savannah.
But Chuck, where are we on this? Is at this point just allegations from one whistleblower? Have they been substantiated in any way?
Well, here's what it is. The whistleblower says that this report, that the internal investigation having to do with how diplomatic security even investigated these allegations, that's where this scathing report came from. It's how the investigators somehow dropped the investigations, including into this ambassador and onto some other deal, including on folks that were part of security detail. So the allegations themselves haven't been fully substantiated by us, but this Inspector General whistleblower believes that the evidence was clear, but the problem was the investigation wasn't done in time to find out for sure if this misconduct was happening.
More to come on this for sure. Chuck Todd, thank you very much.
All right, and we are
better use. This means that the government can force the exchange of property from one private citizen to another private citizen. This is nowhere near the Founding Fathers' intentions. We now have a record share of Americans that have never been married, I being one of them. In fact, the median age of a first marriage has never been higher. Now, you may be thinking this is only affecting single adults. Well, not exactly. According to Pew Research, 1 in 4 parents living with their child are unmarried. And let's take a look at how many children are currently living with either one parent.
So we have to decide right here and right now that Joe Biden will never be reelected as President of the United States, and we're going to elect strong conservative leadership to the White House.
Our country is in a state of decline. This is not a decline that is inevitable. This decline is a choice. This is a decline, and this is a choice we're going to make as Americans over the next weeks, months, and years. And it's not going to be enough to just simply manage the decline a little bit better than the people that are currently in power. No, we as Americans must step up to the plate and reverse the decline of our country. And you see it everywhere you look. We now live in a country where families that are doing everything right, working hard, trying to put food on the table for their kids, suddenly have to choose between getting groceries and buying gas. They can't afford a new house or a new car because of the rising prices and the inflation. And that has been inflicted on this country by the people in Washington, D.C., borrowing and spending this country into oblivion. Inflation's robbing families of the American dream. And of course, as they borrow, print, and spend, the elites in Washington can't even control the territorial integrity of our own country. We have an open southern border that is causing millions and millions of people to flood in, allowing fentanyl to infect our cities, and causing the deaths of over 100,000 Americans each and every year. It is humiliating to see, and it is tragic, the consequences.
We're in the middle of a national identity crisis right now. Faith, patriotism, hard work, family. These things have disappeared, and that leaves a moral vacuum in its wake. And when you have a black hole that runs that deep, that is when the poison fills the void. I say this to you as a relatively young person doing what I'm doing now. I'm 38 years old. I'm a millennial. I was born in 1985. I'll tell you, speaking as a member of my generation, what's going on. We are hungry for a cause. We are starved for purpose and meaning and identity at a point in our national history when the things that used to fill that void, belief in God, belief in country, belief in self, these things have disappeared. And when you have a black hole in your heart, that is when the poison fills the void.
Because 1 year from now, each of you will vote in the most important election of your lifetimes. Your most important. This is going to be the most important. This election will decide whether America will be ruled by Marxists, fascists, communist tyrants who want to smash the Judeo-Christian heritage, or whether America will be saved by God-fearing, freedom-loving patriots like all of the people in this room. It was God-fearing patriots like you who built this country, and it is God-fearing patriots like you who are going to save our country.
And that's just an excerpt of the speeches made by Republican presidential candidates speaking to their faith-based supporters at the Pray, Vote, Stand Summit. America's hope continues after the break.
And it is us.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why is that so important? Because for the first time in world history, there was a government structure that actually gave credit to God Almighty for what He gives us. Because our rights don't come from kings. They don't come from a Congress or a parliament. They come from God Almighty. The men that crafted that document, you know, they did it. Listen to this. They crafted a document called the Declaration of Independence before they were independent. Signed it, sealed it, and delivered it to the most powerful king on earth. Before the king said they were free, they declared themselves to be free. That is audacious. That is courage. That is where we come from. And I believe that's why God heard from heaven and said, you know what, this nation's got some problems. I know they got some problems. They got slavery. I know they got some inequalities and they got some struggles, but I can get behind this nation.
His statement was that if he told me, I would be one of few people in Madison, Georgia that knew about them. And he says they're disposable coffins, I believe he told me. And he says there's 100, at that time, he said there was 125,000 there. And they were stacked, he told me, 15 high. I asked him who owned them, and he stated that the CDC owned them and that they were leasing his land for storage. And he said his brother worked with the CDC in Atlanta and had been asked by the CDC to do a 3-year extension to place temporary morgues all across the nation.
Not long ago, there had been as many as 500,000 of these grave liners or disposable coffins.
We're just getting an idea for the size of these boxes. What could these boxes be used for? Well, they're called casket liners. And that's an interesting term, isn't it? It's a casket liner. When I first heard the term casket liner, I thought perhaps a lining for a casket. But this is too big to be on the inside of a casket. So certainly this could be used as a casket. This is an inexpensive casket. And you can see the size here. There's lots of room. I think my friends here, we could all probably get inside, and it might be a little cozy, but we'd fit just fine. Which tells me that these liners can be used for more than just one.